Data2Bots Consulting, and you're going to be hearing my voice mostly throughout this webinar. So without further ado, let's reveal our curtains and see what we have for us today. So welcome to the start of the webinar. Data2Bots Academy presents to you Demystifying the Data Space. This is going to be an ongoing webinar for 12 weeks that we're going to go in depth into the data space, starting with why you'd want to become a data professional. So this is something on everybody's mind. Anyone who is trying to enter into the data space, they have these questions. Why do I want to be a data professional? Why do I want to enter into the data space? So sit back, relax, as we drive you through answering these questions in great detail. So today, our content and flow is going to be as thus. We're going to have our introduction. I'm going to give you a brief outline, introduce our speaker, and our speaker is going to go ahead and present to us the top quality content, industry level quality content that is going to blow your minds away and answer very, very specific questions in your minds. So without further ado, once more, let's move in straight into the introduction. In today's webinar, our main aim from Data2Bots Academy is to help you filter through all the noise surrounding the data space and answer a very crucial question everyone looking at entering the data space asks themselves. And that is, why would I want to become a data professional? And right now would be a very good time to give you a brief preamble on who is Data2Bots, who is Data2Bots Academy, and why do we have the authority to tell you all these things that we're telling you? Data2Bots is a consulting company situated in Nigeria and the Netherlands, where we consult for big clients, Fortune 500 clients. We place our consultants there as data engineers, analysts, scientists, machine learning engineers, and we deliver all sorts of value to companies who are in need of the data-driven values. So Data2Bots Academy is a subsidiary of Data2Bots, and it's has the main aim of building a data pipeline from Nigeria to Europe to place quality individuals that have been trained, mentored, and put through by us, Data2Bots Academy, in quality positions that they can begin to add value at companies that, give them value for what they are executing. So that is a brief introduction about Data2Bots, the parent company, and Data2Bots Academy. So now we'll go straight into the outline of the webinar. Since we're trying to answer the question of why I would want to become a data professional, it is only necessary that we understand who a data professional is, what is the data value chain, and reasons to become a data professional. And someone very, very qualified, I'm so excited to say this, someone very, very qualified, someone who is basically an authority in the data consulting space is going to be taking us across all these outlines, all these topics. So without any further dragging, introducing our speaker, drum roll please, Mr. Damilola Oke. Mr. Damilola Oke is the lead data consultant here at Data2Bots, and he is a consultant that has over 10 years of experience consulting in the data space for big Fortune 500 companies such as Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Philips, Randstad, just to name a few. And Mr. Damilola Oke builds with the vision of giving back to society as a Nigerian, a pipeline that delivers data talent from Nigeria across Europe using Data2Bots and his vast network connections in most of these industry leading companies. So Mr. Damilola Oke is going to be taking us today in the webinar, and please, I want to assure you that you are going to derive a ton of value from this. So please do not hesitate to share this with your friends. The YouTube link, I'll be posting it in the description in the chat again. And please sit back, relax, because we have a very wonderful journey planned for you today. Over to you, Mr. Dami.
Hello, am I audible, Josh? Hello?
Yes, very audible.
Cool.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you very much for that warm introduction. A big thanks to all attendees joining this webinar, Demystifying the Data Space. My objective here today is to shed light from a very high level why anyone would consider a career in the data profession. So let's have a clear understanding, right? First of all, anyone who works within a data space is considered a data professional. Anyone who basically adds value within this value chain is considered a data professional. So I would be discussing down the line what is a data value chain. I'll be shedding light into several links within this data value chain and where you see yourself if you are, of course, interested in becoming a data professional. So let's start by taking a look at several roles within the data value chain. Within the data profession, I would say within the data space, we have about 10 roles that are really unique and that are within this space. These roles, I would go through each of them, giving a description of what it actually means from a functional perspective and not just what it is from a theoretical perspective. A data engineer. The last 15 years, I've spent it doing this as a day-to-day job. So I think it's one of the favorite roles, I would say, that I consider within a data space. And what does a data engineer do? A data engineer basically builds, maintain, and deliver data via several data pipelines or data infrastructure. On the next we have the data analyst, right? The data analyst is basically a person that analyzes and models data with the goal of discovering useful information from it. Next, we have a data scientist. Excuse me. A data scientist basically is a person that builds statistical and machine learning models to enable business decision making. We have a machine learning engineer who builds and maintains machine learning models, getting them to a stage of production, operationalizing them. So this role specifically is one of the complex roles I always mention within the data space because you need some knowledge of data science, you need some knowledge of software engineering, you need some knowledge of DevOps, right? So it's really a complex role, and that role, it's something that is in high demand. And of course, I'll be discussing this more as we move on in this webinar. We have the DevOps engineer. Okay, this is our automation expert, right? This is the person that oversees the entire software automation process and showing things like continuous integration, continuous delivery, continuous deployment. These actors are also people who are responsible for writing infrastructure as code. Okay, we have the analytics engineer. This role, it's one of the newest role within the data space. You must maybe some of you have been hearing it here and there, but one of their primary responsibility is to build fit-for-purpose data sets using languages like SQL. We have the data steward, another very new role in the data space, right? This role, this person is basically the gatekeeper, right? This is the person that ensures that there is proper data governance for an organization's data assets, which includes things like data ownership, data accessibility, data security, data quality, and data traceability. Next is a database administrator. I must say this is one of the roles that is going into some kind of extinct really quickly. And this is a really traditional role. It's not really a modern role. And what does this actor does within the data value chain? This actor basically is responsible for database operations, things like configuration, migration, performance tuning, troubleshooting and backup, data recovery, things like this. Next, we have the business intelligence developer. This is an actor who develops and maintains BI systems, right? When I say BI, I basically mean business intelligence interfaces. And finally on the list, we have a business analyst. Though this is not, it's arguable that this role is really within the data space. It is, and clearly it is from a functional perspective. These are the guys that gather business requirements and identify areas for business improvement using data. Now let's come back to the data value chain. I said I'm going to explain this, and this is something I really want to discuss in depth. So the data value chain first. Let's understand Okay, Josh, you want to say something?
Hello? Yeah. I'm sorry, just before you move on.
Okay.
You mentioned something very interesting. You said the database administrator is a job role within the data space that is going extinct. Why do you say that?
So there are a lot of reasons. I'm just going to highlight a few. One, the database administrator was really a relevant role in the past, right? Because we didn't have big data, I would say, right? So since the advent of big data, you've had roles like DevOps engineer, data engineer. This day-to-day functions of a database administrator has been split to these two other actors, right? So ideally, you do not have that particular function done by a database administrator. The second thing is that one of the major functions of the database administrator is basic maintenance and the functional side of maintaining a database, right? This is really not necessary again. We have cloud providers like Google Cloud Platform, Amazon Web Services, Azure. These companies provide database as a solution, right? They're responsible for the backup, recovery, disaster, and whatever your database might be facing. So if you look at it, that job 5 to 10 years from today would be extinct. I think that's being over optimistic. I think in most big companies already, you don't hear this again. Okay. So I think that basically sheds more light into why I mentioned this. So let's discuss. Yes. Okay, cool. Thanks. So let's look at the data value chain, right? Before I explain what the data value chain means, I would like to, bring us back to what a value basically means. A value chain basically means itself, right? A value chain had several activities a company and its employee performs to bring a product from conception to its end users and beyond, right? So from a data perspective, let's look at what a data value chain means, right? These are the several links, right? The several activities carried out by, to make data usable. So it includes extraction, transfer of data from a variety of data sources, transformation of this data, and of course, loading them into the database. Now let's look more into each of these links within the data value chain. So I'm going to walk through each of the links. The first link we have is the data acquisition link. right? At this point, activities that occur includes data sourcing, data gathering, data filtering, and pre-cleaning, right? This is a very important stage, but what happens at this stage is that data has very less value. We have the high volume of data coming in high velocity and high variety, but has really not zero value, but low value. Low value, let's take a very good example of a crude oil, right? We have crude oil. Nigeria has one of the largest storage of crude oil, right? So what happens is that if that crude oil is not refined to a point of petrol or kerosene or diesel, you see that it really has no value. The same thing at this point in the value chain. So basically, we then need to add some level of value to move to the point of data analysis. At this link, we try to understand data. Okay, we've accumulated all these varieties, sparse shapes and sizes of data. Now, what exactly do we need? Why do we need it? We try to identify what data points are necessary. How should we kind of normalize this data? What can, you ask those questions from an analysis perspective. We deep dive, we explore, we evaluate, we summarize the data. Next link in the value chain is the data curation, right? At this point, what do? We try to understand what steps needs to be done that has been discovered from the analysis in terms of processing, transforming, and of course, also delivering this data to the point where it can be validated, right? We don't just say you've transformed the data, you've processed the data, you need to also validate it, ensuring that whatever value you wanted to create from the data has been created through validation processes. Next is the data storage, right? So this links ensures the preservation of data for future retrieval. If you transform the data, you need to be able to make it accessible at some point. So this is the storage layer where you have things like databases, the file systems, the cloud storage systems, the data centers, and things like this. And finally, we have the last link where I think the value becomes relatively great for all businesses, is the point where you make informed decision, right? That's actually the usability of the data. At this point, activities are carried out to make data accessible through reports, visualization tools, APIs, and things like this. So I've just described several activities and links within the data value chain. Now, I would like us to look at how these actors, remember the way it was defined, right? How each of these actors and what value they play within the data value chain. So we have several actors and several functions that they perform. Some of these functions I have listed, but now I'm actually going to explain some of this in depth. So you see that you have, in the data acquisition stage, you have a data engineer, a DevOps engineer, and a business analyst, a data steward, right? All these guys are playing several roles. In the analysis stage, you have things, data analyst, you have a data scientist, an analytics engineer, business analyst, and data steward. So I would not want to run through all of this. You can basically run through it by just looking at it. So why this is important is because you see that some actors are relevant at several stages of the data value chain. Some actors are not. Some actors are repeated, some actors are single. But at least if you already look at this, you already ask yourself, if you want to be a data engineer, where will I be playing most of my roles? What will I be doing? This helps you to know within the data value chain, the point at which you will be adding value. So in the next slide, I will be discussing more about the reasons to be a data professional. So I think one of the reasons a lot of people, when you hear it is, okay, money. They want to be software engineers, they want to be data professionals, they always talk about money, right? For me, I also look at it I look at money as the last thing, and I would explain why. Also, when we get to that point, I look at first is the demand, right? One of the most important things in your career is to be in a space where there is high demand. That is because it gives you the flexibility to move from if you like, let me say, one company to another, if that's your choice, or from one project to another. So demand, most of the roles within data space has been cumulatively predicted that over the next 5 years, we're going to have about 30% growth, right? The US Bureau of Statistics also said about 11.5 million data-related roles will be created over the next 5 years. So if you really look at it, there is, and not just in the US, of course, I would say most developing countries, and of course, even in the developing countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Brazil, or companies I could think of, it does not really matter. What happens is that people are really now understanding that it's not just the natural resources that we have, which we pull from the ground, but data itself has become a natural resource, and we need people to mine it, basically. Next is the diverse job opportunities, right? There is job opportunity for everyone. I really do not care about your academic background because it really doesn't matter at this point. There are about 10 major roles within the data space that I have highlighted. And whether you come from sociology, you come from electrical engineering, you come from I don't know, journalism, whatever your space is, right? Whatever your academic background is, there's really a place you can fit in. You see, I mentioned things like a business analyst, right? I mentioned things like a data steward. You do not need to be a nerd software engineer to be a data professional. That's something you need to know. There is a space for everyone within the data space because there is it's a big piece of cake, I would say. The next role you'll be thinking of, which I think makes a lot of sense. Joshua, please, can you move to the next slide? Thanks. Is the self-employment, right? The next self-employment is the future of work, whether companies like it or not. Okay, whether Google likes it or not, whether Facebook likes it or not, whether Guarantee Trust Bank likes it or not. Self-employment is the future of work for but of course, that's if you are in the right career space, right? So I don't think self-employment is a future of work for someone who, and I'll just say this, please forgive me, who is a security man or someone working at McDonald's. That's not the point, right? Self-employment is a future of work for certain careers, and that's basically that's what companies are going to get. And all the roles within the data space fall into this category, right? Working for a company for the rest of your life should be a choice. It shouldn't be because there is no freedom to choose that I'm done with you guys, I want to move somewhere else. And that's what you get from being a data professional. Being a data professional affords you the opportunity to become self-employed. So another reason why I would say anyone would want to be a data professional is the work flexibility, right? So work, life, and balance is highly important for most people. We see people are basically having nervous breakdown. People are getting overstressed. So why would you want to do? Work is work, okay? But having some level of flexibility with work is the future of work. And that's what being a data professional affords you, right? Even before COVID-19, many data professionals have been working from home. So it has nothing to do with COVID-19 or not, okay? You're always going to be afforded this opportunity. At least I can guarantee you for the next 10, 15, 20 years coming, okay? So the ability to work where you want, when you want, is something of huge value to humans. And I think getting a career or being in a career that affords you this opportunity is something that is important. So please think about this. Next is opportunity to go where you want, when you want, work from where you like, right? And that's the global relocation opportunities. I can confidently say, and that's one of the things we are also doing at the Data2Bots Academy. We basically give you the opportunity to work abroad. Okay, so you choose to work in the Netherlands, you choose to work in Belgium, so in Europe basically, and we hope to cover most countries in Europe and also even maybe the US and Canada in the future. So you are creating excess value for companies, for the Fortune 500 companies, for the GDP of these countries that you're being relocated to, right? So if the Nigerian economy, or I would say unemployment level is about 33%, you should be able to relocate to Ghana if you like, relocate to Belgium if you like, relocate to the US if you like, you know, I mean, and that is what being a data professional affords you. Okay, so you have opportunity for easy job relocation. Data2Bots Academy, again, like I said, this facilitates things like this. So that is also some important thing. Of course, not everybody wants to relocate, but for those who want to relocate, that's one of the things that being a data professional affords you. And now, the topic we all want to talk about, or most people want to talk about when you hear, is always on the pay, right? Excuse me. For me, I always say choosing a career because of money is a wrong choice, because you would get money, and at that point, you then ask yourself, am I really satisfied? Of course, we all have several level of financial strength. So money is always an important thing. But I think always, you know, look at the whole picture and not just the money part. Okay, so just as a disclaimer, this data that you see here is just based on estimate of a very sparse data set. And I can say that the years of experience doesn't really matter in this case, right? Because what you see in the data profession space is that your years of experience is a factor, but also your measurable skill set is equal to your pay grade. Okay, so I've seen people tell me, oh, I have 6 years of experience. I tell them, you don't even, you will not even earn $3,000 with your 6 years of experience. And the reason is simple. It's not the amount of years you have been a data professional that determines your pay grade. What determines your pay grade? Of course, it's some years of experience, but most of the time it's also your measurable skill set. It's a very wonderful field. How much value can you create for end users in the sense of data? Data is the product. How much value can you create from data? Believe me, has 60% to do on your pay grade. Okay, so now I'm going to run through this. Of course, as you see in Europe, what you see is about, for someone within 0 to 1 year, which means even if I have 6 months of experience, I could earn about 3,000 euros a month. Of course, that's great. So we see that data, of course, putting together millions of data points to be able to come to these figures. So someone within the 1 to 3 years of experience will be earning about 3,500 to 4,200 euros. Someone with about 3 years to 6 years, which is media, will be earning about 4,600 to 5,200 euros. And people above 6 years of experience and about 5,400 to 6,000 euros. Of course, they could earn 9,000 or more, but that's a safe estimate we're giving here. And in US and Canada, this is combined together, data sets has been combined together to come to this in USD. We have about 5,000, 6,000 for people within 0 to 1 year, about 7,000 to 8,000 between 1 to 3 years, about 9,000 to 11,000 for those within 3 years to 6 years, and over 12K for those above 6 years. So all of this data, again, is really sparse, but I can tell you authoritatively that this is what you will find in most companies, in most big companies. Okay, cool. So now I would pass on to you, Joshua, and you can take it from here.
Wow, thank you very much for this. It's been very, very insightful. Understanding the relations between an actor within the data value chain and their processes has been very, very insightful. And I think we are going to get a lot of questions because there will be a lot of people here, and they would want to have questions. So right now we are in the Q&A session. So for the Q&A, please head over to the Q&A tab on your Zoom platform and ask questions that will be directed to the speaker. So for any questions that are directed to the speaker, please add a speaker prefix, and the speaker will try as much as possible to answer your questions. we could also try to give a couple of the participants the liberty to, ask their questions live, like through voice. So if you want to do that, please just raise your hand up, and at random will pick, and you'll be able to ask your questions. So, Dami, I'm going to go into the Q&A session and see what we have there. So we have someone asking, is data curation the same as data cleaning?
So, good question. So, data curation is just saying something like education. And I'm going to give a very good example so you understand this word, right? So you say education, and you say within education, you have university education, you have secondary school education, you have primary school education. So if we talk about data curation, right, that's the same way you would see it, right? There are several things that you could do as part of data curation, right? Cleaning is a task. You have filtering is a task. So filtering again is now, you see, it's even now going low, because when you're cleaning something, you also filter, you basically mask. So for example, now we have things like GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, whereby you need to protect PII of data, right? So that's the part of the curation process, right? So you need to mask that data. So all curation is more of a high level description of all those processes that happen within the point where you're trying to make sense of data, you could also call it transformation. Okay, so it's a transformation process. It's synonymous to transformation. So these words, you hear people throwing a lot of terms, but again, on a high level, you need to see it like transformation is one-to-one match with curation, and a lot of things happen under this umbrella. Go.
Thank you very much for that answer, Dami. We have a question here from Samuel Jenny, saying, for people just entering the data world, do you have any free recommendations for data science internships that will help increase our experience? Would you like to answer this live?
Yes. So what I always say is, first, you have to choose one particular data role, so data career path. And you need to know why. You need to know your underlying skill set. We have a series of webinars where we're going to go through each of these roles. And we're doing that because we want to basically give people an entry point into each role they may choose, right? So to answer that question succinctly, my advice is always, please get an internship. A lot of people see internship as I'm just doing it. But my advice is always get an internship. It doesn't even have to be paid, right? It doesn't have to be a paid internship. Get an internship somewhere, not where you are being used, because I think internship has become a usage ground for companies, but where you're actually doing the stuff. If you get into an internship and you're doing something else, please quit it immediately. Only get into an internship that basically focuses on why you go into that internship. So it's always that. Second thing is just look for a mentor. Okay, I always tell people to look for mentors who are actually, they've gone far in this, and tell them, let me build that model for you. Okay, you just guide me. Let me be the one, doing the heavy lifting. That's something else I advise people to do. And it's just like any profession, right? So that's basically how I would approach this growth model.
Thank you very much for that, Dami. And Samuel, just to add a little bit more, for recommendations of internships, for data science internships, data engineering internships, Data2Bots Consulting in Nigeria is always on the lookout for interns to bring into the company to basically grow them, right? Grow them from raw files, raw JSON files, let's say that, and take them into complete processed files that you can now say by yourself, I have developed, I have upskilled myself, and it's something you can always go to the Data2Bots website, and you would see that link later in the webinar, and just go to the job page and search for an internship or filter by internships, and you'll always see that. You will always see those kind of internships opportunities available whenever they are available. We have a very interesting question from Hope, and it says, at what point can you say a person has become a professional, a data professional?
Okay, so good question and a very difficult one to answer. So a data professional, we all know that it's a single role, right? We have people, maybe like myself and then maybe other professionals who have transited via several roles, right? So at some point they've been a data analyst, at some point they've been maybe a business analyst, at some point they've been a database administrator. So they've basically moved across several roles. Anyone who has been able to pull through at least 2 to 3 projects independently with a team. So when I say independently with a team, I'm going to explain that as well. So 2 to 3 projects, which means you're a business analyst and you have a company or a project whereby a company says, we want to know the spike. We want to understand all the spike that happens across all of our data points, why they happen, right? So that's a business question. In those cases, you're a business analyst, pick up those kind of business use cases, right? When it picks up this kind of business use cases, up until the point that that data is delivered to the user, the business user, it's the responsibility of that business analyst to walk through that entire value chain, okay? But it's working with several actors. So if that business analyst has been able to take a business requirement up until the point that data has been served as a product to the end users 2 to 3 times in a cycle, he's a data professional business analyst. It means he can confidently brag on his chest and say, you know what? I built that stuff. I built that stuff. I tell people, if you've not been able to build a process end to end, you are not a data professional. You are just somebody picking up small tasks. You should be able to see it from the entire value chain, okay? From the beginning to the end, and you've been able to be involved with other actors such that that project or that data product, because data is a product right now, right? Until that product is delivered. So does that answer the question? I hope so.
Yes, I think you've done justice in that. So basically, Hope, you have become a data professional when you have been able to move from one end of the data value chain to the other end, and you have interacted with other data actors, and from a high level, you can see and apply these things across board without having any issues whatsoever. So at that point, you can say, okay, I can add value in so parts in the data value chain. I can do this process from end to end. Now your value is is 100%, and this is the measurable skill set that Daniel was talking about when he gave his point on the salaries. Yeah, we have quite a number of interesting questions, and I'll pick some more because yeah, someone is asking about Data2Bots as an experience. Okay, so Mr. Dami, we have from Iberi, he's asking, or she's asking, as a graduate of the Data2Bots Academy, can we use our experience on our CVs? And secondly, for the relocation aspect, what role will the individual play and what role will the company play?
Okay, cool. So I might steal this opportunity to shed a little light into Data2Bots Academy. Data2Bots Academy is not Udemy, it's not Coursera. We're not just here. Data2Bots Academy model is not to just train you. Data2Bots Academy is to give you a career in the data space. So our primary goal is to ensure that every person that goes through Data2Bots Academy is not just employable, but we facilitate the employment of that professional. That's our primary objective and our vision. So we're not just a regular academy or training place. No, we want to be responsible for your employability within the data space. So your career development, that's one. Secondly, is that we have an initiative within the Data2Bots Academy in partnership with Data2Bots Consulting in the Netherlands, and that initiative is called the Data2Bots Talent Pipeline, right? The goal of this talent pipeline is to actually run through those who pass the Data2Bots Academy via this pipeline to Data2Bots Consulting and to our partners in Europe. So again, like we mentioned, our goal is not, we don't have an academy because we want to deliver training content. We have an academy because we want to make people employable. And that's, I would say, of course, answers the question and does some justice to what we are doing at Data2Bots Academy and what we do at Data2Bots as a whole. Okay.
Thank you very much for that, Danny. Wow, the questions are really cool and really nice. So more light on that, Ebere, for the role you play. You're going to have to be committed. That's the role you're going to have to play. You're going to have to focus and put in the hours that nobody sees, the midnight candles. Our parents always say, burn the midnight candle, burn the midnight candle, but we didn't take them seriously then. But now, as we are adults having more responsibility for ourselves, we should have burnt that midnight candle. So that's the role you're going to have to play. And the role the company will play for you is to give you whatever it is, resource-wise, mentorship-wise, whatever it is you need, think about it, the company is going to provide it for you. And on the relocation part as well, if you're successful, if you show these inherent qualities that we are looking for, definitely you have an opportunity there as well. I'm going to give time to some bold people who have their hands raised, allow them speak and ask their questions. So Damilola, you would have the chance to speak in about 2 seconds. So yeah, you can unmute your mic now and ask your question. So if you have any questions that you want and you're bold enough to speak on the webinar, please try as much as possible to raise your hands up. Okay, Damilola, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hi, good morning, Data2Bots. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, we can. Please go on.
Okay, so I want to ask if the training is going to be virtual or physical. That's the question.
Nice. Okay, that's very good. The training is going to be virtual, and on the contact page, we would have our website on page. You see on every slide, we have our website, https://academy.data2bots.com. You scroll down, you will find our FAQ page that would answer most of your questions. How is the training going to be delivered? What are the relocation opportunities after the training? What are the course contents that we are going to have during the training, and so on and so forth. So if you have any questions concerning the training, concerning Data2Bots Academy, please visit our website, go to the FAQ page and answer. There are a ton of things there and your questions will be answered. Right now, before we move on, because our time is gradually coming to a close, we would like to have each and every one of you please participate in an in-house poll, an in-house survey. This would help us gauge your feedback and improve these processes on and on. So we're going to take about 2-3 minutes. Please, as much as possible, the polls are going to appear on your screen right now. If you're attending from your phone, you're going to see you're going to see a poll appear on your phone. If you're attending from your laptop, you're going to see a poll appear. So right now, I'm launching the poll. Please try as much as possible to answer it. And at the end of the webinar, you'd also get a survey. Please, it's just 4 questions. Let's try as much as possible to answer it. It helps us, gauge some things that we're trying to gauge. So while we're answering this in webinar survey, please, I am going to be giving some information. So the end of the Q&A session has come. If your questions have not been answered, do not worry. There is always going to be a period where we will touch on any questions that you have, and we'll try as much as possible to answer them for you. So again, you can go to our website, https://academy.data2bots.com. You go there, you'd find a lot of your questions have already been answered. All right, so thank you very much for joining. We're 7 minutes from our closing time. On your screens, you'll be seeing our social media handles, social media pages, our websites, and it was very, very nice having each and every one of you here. I can already see in the chats that people are very grateful, saying thank you, yeah, it is our own pleasure to deliver this value to you free of charge. We already see that there is something happening now where people would give false information and still charge you money for that. No, the Data2Bots Academy is putting this webinar series together to present to you this information without any payments or whatever attached. So it's going to be a wonderful run. So on your screens now, you'll see social media links, LinkedIn, Data2Bots, Data2Bots, just search Data2Bots, you get it. For Instagram, at Data2Bots, search Data2Bots, and you'll also find our page. Twitter, Data2Bots also, and Facebook, Data2Bots. If you even go through the chats, you'd see that a ton of links have been pasted there by some of my colleagues. So without any further ado, I want to say once again, thank you very much for joining this webinar. And our next webinar is going to be same time next week, Saturday, by 10 a.m. We are going to be touching into a very, very interesting topic, which is what do you require to be a data professional? So what you require to be a data professional is going to be touched upon in that webinar. So what are the things you need to do? What are the mindsets you need to have? What are the things you need to avoid? What are the things you need to stop doing? What are the things you need to start doing? We are going to give you a full detailed rundown. If you registered for this webinar via any of the links that we provided, just go straight to the email, add it to your calendar. All the events that we're going to have are automatically synced up. So you'll be notified exactly when it's time for you to have the next webinar. The next webinar, we are going to again be talking about and detailing on what do I require to be a data professional. Today, we have understood why I should be a data professional. So many good things are there. Good pay, work flexibility. I have worked remotely most of the time as a data professional. So that option is there as well. We've understood things like the data value chain and understood things like who a data professional is. So now we are going to take it one step further and tell you what you require to be a data professional. Please share the links to your friends. You'll be receiving emails. If you missed it, if you didn't come in. You'll be able to watch it live on YouTube. We'll definitely get back to you. If you need, there was a question asking about the slides. If you want that, also, we are going to find a way to make this publicly available so that people can have this knowledge standby. Or it's something that we would provide later rather than sooner. So do not worry, all of this information is going to get to you. We will already reach you. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email academy@data2bots.com. The email once again is academy@data2bots.com. So please try as much as possible to invite your friends, your brothers, your sisters, anyone who you think is interested in staying or entering into the data space, migrating from one job to another, or is already a super data professional and is just looking for job opportunities within the data space. So thank you very, very much, everyone. And this brings us to the end of our webinar. And it was so nice having you here. It was very, very nice having you here. And yes, thanks so much. Thanks so much. There are going to be links provided. You can actually rewatch this. It's going to be uploaded on YouTube. So let's try as much as possible to invite our friends. If you derive any value from this whatsoever, please try as much as possible to tell somebody else, because that way we are sharing that same value with you too. So thank you very much. And the webinar is going to be ending now. And we'll see you next week. Same time next week, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Saturday. And we are going to be discussing on what I require to be a data professional. That is the 16th of April, Saturday. We are going to be discussing what do I require to become a data professional, and see you there. Bye.